So dear friends, we have a great feast this week called the Feast of the Body and Blood of Jesus. In Latin we call it Corpus Christi. Corpus Christi. And corpus means the body and Christi of Christ. And the significance of this feast is very far-reaching. We speak of the body, we speak of the blood, because that is the essence of the human person. When I'm getting angry or when I'm getting passionate, we say, I can feel it in my body, I can see it in my blood, I can see the blood rising up, I say that. I remember that famous Shakespearean drama, a sort of a play, Merchant of Venice, where the Merchant of Venice is crying for the flesh, the pound of flesh, he says. All that means that the human person, the human body is very important. And how much more will it be important for us, Christ's own body that is given to us. We have beautiful readings today, as I told you. The readings are from the book of Exodus, where Moses, in that liturgical rite of the Old Testament, they made sacrifices at the altar, and Moses in this particular context takes the blood of the bulls and sprinkles it on the altar, and some of it he sprinkles on the people. Very symbolic. The same blood uniting the altar and the people together. And St. Paul in his letter to the, not exactly St. Paul, but the author of Hebrews, chapter 9, 11 to 15 says that Christ entered as a high priest, not just a tent made by human hands, but he entered once and for all in holy places by the sprinkling of his own blood. It's not the blood of the goats and the bulls and the sheep that was in the Old Testament, but Jesus offers his own life, offers his own blood, as it were. And in the Gospel, we have that beautiful account of the Last Supper, Mark chapter 14, verse 12 to 26, wherein Jesus, when he was eating, he took bread, and after blessing, he broke it and gave it to his disciples and said, "Take, this is my body." So also he took the chalice and said, "This is the blood of the covenant which is poured out for many." So therefore, all the three readings, as it were, point to this Eucharistic sacrifice by which Jesus of his own body, his own blood, his own self, totally, as it were. We see that last scene of the crucifixion wherein the centurion wants to find out whether Jesus is alive or dead. And we are told when he pierced the spear, there is this drops of blood and drops of water, the last drop of blood, the last drop of water from Jesus' substance, Jesus' body comes out. So therefore this is a great feast for us, and it's also well celebrated in many of our churches. Some of our churches take processions of the Corpus Christi, of the Eucharistic Lord. Some have adoration, some have so many. And here in Rome, as you know, there are many churches that have good devotion for Corpus Christi. In fact, the feast is a social celebration. It's known for everybody. Now, though Italy is becoming more and more secular, people still remember, and there are many people who attend Mass on the Corpus Christi Day. I see that there are three significance, or rather four things that I can say about the Corpus Christi himself. First of all, the Holy Eucharist is a covenant. A covenant is something like a contract, but a little higher than that. It's between two persons, a sort of an agreement, what we call, these days we call memorandum of understanding and so many things. And so covenant is like a contract, but not a contract. Because in the contract, both the parties are equal. It's give and take. I give you this much, you give me in kind, or perhaps your services in this much. So both balances very well. And if one fails, the other one can be taken to task, can be taken to the court. But covenant is something like one-sided. It is sided on the on the side of the one who makes it in our sense, God Himself. God makes His covenant. And as I said, it's not equal. The partners are not equal. Need not be. Perhaps it is a big king that makes a covenant with a small farmer or perhaps small citizen of his country. Also perhaps the covenant is also that it cannot be, it is even-ended. It's in the sense the one person cannot give everything, but does not matter. Last of it, one person may even get back or rescind from the covenant, break the covenant, but the other person still continues. In his letter to St. Paul, in his letter to the Philippians, I think so, he says that we may be unfaithful, but God is never unfaithful. God is always faithful. So that's the sign of the covenant. Secondly, Eucharist is a banquet, it's a meal. We have such sort of memorable meals among us, and also perhaps celebrations of meal, a wedding meal. People say that you miss out anything, but don't miss our meal, you come there, please take a small bit, because that gives us joy. And the meal is also, it's a celebrative type. These big people, for example, politicians call it a dinner diplomacy, a lunch diplomacy. That means they eat, perhaps they are not come to eat there, but they take certain things, but they discuss many things, discuss many contracts or perhaps many agreements during the lunchtime. And so also for us, you don't call anybody for meals in your house, perhaps many people, but you call certain persons whom you have faith, trust, your friend, your relative, close to you, we call. So therefore this is a special sort of meaning that Jesus calls us for the meal, which means we are special. And ultimately the heaven is considered as a banquet. So many times we have not known what heaven is, but the parables, the sayings, etc. speak about the heavenly banquet, which means it's a meal. Eucharist is also a memorial. The word memorial is beautiful. To keep memory. Nowadays we take a lot of photographs, perhaps, with our the mobiles, we can take thousands and hundreds of photographs, and many of them are just thrown away, wiped away. You keep one or two, perhaps even that you don't remember, and it goes off. But olden days, the memories were powerful. Even for us, perhaps our childhood memories, they are not recorded in any cameras, but it's here in our mind. We can remember many things. So also the Eucharist is a memorial in the sense, Jesus says, do this in memory of me, as often as you can. So therefore, every Eucharist is a memorial that what Jesus did, that laying down of His own body and blood for the sake of mankind, but then in it is also expressed the resurrection of Jesus, that He came up again. So my dear friends, perhaps I have to ask you a question. If you were to invite Jesus for a meal, how would you do it? Where would you call Him? Perhaps what things you could discuss. That should be our unction, our anxiety, our happiness to invite Jesus for a meal with us. And the place, of course, in the gospel today when it begins, Jesus sends to His disciples and says, prepare for the banquet, prepare for the Passover meal. And then when you go there, you will come across a certain person that he is perhaps busy doing this thing and that thing. But you ask him, where shall I prepare for the meal? Where is our guest room as such? Where is the guest room where I will prepare the meal for Passover? And he will show you a place. And for us, the guest room is the heart. We invite Jesus to celebrate Eucharist in our heart. That's the best place to keep memory of Him, to rejoice in His banquet, at the same time to call this particular meal as a meal of the covenant, where Jesus participates, where Jesus rules, and even if we are unfaithful, even if we are sinners, God still celebrates the Eucharist with us.